real quick. You said
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Well, this is normally when Ellie would say, welcome to Lioness Lifestyle Live. And as you can see, Ellie is nowhere to be found, you guys. She is having some plumbing issues, serious plumbing issues at her house. She wishes she could be here, but she's got to deal with that. So that's where she is. But I'm Christy from Meeting Wellness. I'm so glad that you're here, and we're so excited to meet with you this evening.
Hi, and I'm Adrienne from AK Gledhill. And tonight we have our friend Laura from Healthy Carnivore. So I'm going to push the button, I think.
Hey, we forgot the roar of the week, Adrienne. We forgot the roar of the week. But hello, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Hello,
Now you
how
get
are
to see
you?
the roar of the week, and also go ahead with the roar of the week.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead with the roar of the week. Adrienne jumped the gun. She was so excited to talk to you, Laura. She jumped the gun just a smidge.
I do love Laura.
Yes, we do
That's
love
okay.
Laura. Okay, so Laura, hang tight. Here we go. Here's our roar of the week, you guys. It's from my friend Charlie, aka Darth Carnivore. So Charlie said, sorry, I missed this live as I was in the Phoenix Desert on the successful hunt for In-N-Out Burger. I love a good In-N-Out Burger.
Yes.
But now, for almost 70 years old, your guest is extremely active and healthy. Speaking of the other Laura, we had the other Laura last week. She
Yeah.
was amazing and looks at least 20 or 30 years younger than she actually is. Both in my own journey and what I've seen through others in sharing their carnivore journeys so far, it's continued to give me renewed hope in what it means to age properly. It doesn't have to be about accepting chronic decline. Instead, it can be fun, beautiful, and with healthy vibrancies. Thank you, Lionesses, for another wonderful episode. Thank you, Charlie. We appreciate you so much. If you guys want to be next week's Roar of the Week, leave us a comment in the after the show, and I will hunt through those, and we'll find one to shout out next week.
So, like I said, today we have Laura from
Yeah,
Healthy
we do.
Carnivore. She is a mom, a nurse, a prepper. She has her own business. She's an entrepreneur. She makes non-toxic products for everything from deodorant to soap to candles. So we're really excited to talk to her today. If you have any questions, if you could please put QQQ or question in front of it, then we'll grab it and so we'll make sure to get it to our guests. So Laura, thank you so much for being here. Could you tell us a little bit
Sure.
about your story?
Sure. So I originally was keto. I started keto in 91 when I was 20 years old at 313 pounds. And I did it, just threw away everything white and basically did a few garden vegetables out of my garden, meat heavy, fat heavy. I did that for 28 years, did pretty well, 26 years of that. And then, of course, as all good marketers do, they started marketing to the keto and started doing keto bars and treats. And so the last 2 years of keto, I developed cystic acne that I'd never had as a kid. Um, just felt horrible, but depression, anxiety was off the chart, just felt like crap, and decided I got to change something. And I actually saw Dr. Baker on the Joe Rogan show. And I was like, this makes perfect sense to me. So I'm going to jump on and do this. And I'm an all or none personality. So June, in fact, this is my 5-year carniversary is this month. So I'm not even sure if it was the first day or the last. I remember it was June. I didn't even care because I just wanted to feel better. So that's how I came to carnivore.
Amazing. I came in on the 17th of a month, but I think as the years go by, I won't remember what day it is because who cares,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So could you
Exactly.
tell us a little bit about some of the products that you do and why did you start doing that?
Yeah. Yeah. So, years ago, I actually started making like my own deodorant and making my own tooth powder. Now, I had given up taking like the fluoride treatments at the dentist 30 years ago. Just when I was doing my researching on healthy eating, 33 years ago, it just talked about why that was toxic to us and that natural groundwater with a little bit of fluoride that's natural is okay, but you don't need the amounts that we get that's put in our products. Also, the aluminum that's in the deodorant, just with that uptick into the glands, they're so close here up to the brain. I just thought if I'm going to put good food inside my body, I should be putting good stuff on my body. And so I've been doing that for years. I've made my own tooth powder forever. And I make two different ones now. I had been doing just like the peppermint, and somebody asked if I could do cinnamon. So I made cinnamon, and it is, I think it's my new favorite. So, but I make everything, lotion, soaps, shampoo, and you don't need conditioner with the shampoo bars. It's not too much, but it's just the right amount. You really don't need it. So, but that's why I did that. And then I started sharing it with friends, patients, family, years ago. And then they actually started like, well, why don't you just sell them? And I was like, I don't know. I'm not salesy. I'm not big on trying to make money. I just want everybody to have the best of what they can get. And then when I started working with the fierce felines, G was like, what do you mean you have all these products? Why aren't you doing it? And I was like, I'm not salesy. Like, I just want people to have, opportunity to have this stuff. And I can't obviously give it away, but I sure do it as cheap as possible with the best products. So, like, all of my containers are BPA free. And then all of like the dandelions come from my backyard, the elderberries come from there. Lavender comes from my sister-in-law who lives 3 miles away. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I use is just so locally resourced. So that's kind of what I do.
I would like to second what Kimberly said. It is very affordable. I have purchased many of Laura's products and I love her lip balm. It's like $3 for a lip balm. I mean, who does that? And it's just
Yeah.
works so well. Also her tallow lotion, but I just heard you name a bunch of plants, Laura. So I'm just going to put a link to our episode that we did called Plants as Medicine. And I put that on
Yeah.
all three. I can't post it to your channel, Laura, but oh my gosh, does
That's okay.
Laura elaborate on, you know, like why we would need maybe to have some lavender or some castor oil or some of these things that are plant based. And she just
Yeah.
like laid out all the knowledge in that episode. So I highly recommend you guys go and watch that after this if you haven't seen it, because like I had to go back and take notes after that one. It was very, very well done, Laura. So if
Well,
you
thank you.
have any interest in those tallow products, definitely go check those out because they're amazing. So, when you went keto and then carnivore, what benefits have you seen? And has it been like, I know you're a nurse, like, has it been enough benefits for you that that's something that you recommend to your patients?
Absolutely. So, the depression and anxiety took about probably a month or two. The cystic acne started clearing up immediately. I could tell that that was decreased. My sleep improved immediate. That was kind of like within just days. The joint pain and inflammation, that went away very, very fast. um Performance, like being able to just, like, I love kickboxing, I love to lift weights, I love to sprint, I love to do that stuff. That got to where, I mean, I'm 53, and I mean, I don't even get winded. I went for a 2-mile walk and I did these huge hills that I hadn't done in a long time on this road. And I thought, man, I'll get to the top of that hill and my chest, I'll be feeling my heart beating fast. It did not. I was like, okay, that's pretty good for somebody my age. But so once I I already knew that cleaning up your diet was a good idea, but I just took it to, the next level. And once I figured that out and really saw the benefits, and saw a lot of my lab work go in the right direction, including my cardiac calcium score. So when I did that after being keto for 27 years, 27 or 20, yeah, 27 years, it was like 368 or 378, which I mean, that's not horrible, but that's not great. And then I had it done again, being about 2 years of carnivore, and it was zero. So for doctors that say that that cannot be reversed, not true.
Okay, that's
Not
so
true.
interesting because I've heard people sort of kicking that around like, can it get better? We don't really know. Like I've never heard a personal maybe one other story,
Yeah.
I'm not real sure, but no, that's
Yeah.
amazing that that was able to go down to a
Yeah.
zero. And have you continued to get that scan to make sure to see if it's
Yes.
still
So,
zero?
yep, I had it last year again, which would be after 4 years, still zero. And they were like, why do you keep doing this? And I was like, I just want to make sure because you guys think I'm crazy eating like this. I just
Mhm.
want to show you that here I am. And before, I had done keto and here I had all of this in there. And now I don't have that anymore. Now, the other thing that I also did on top of being carnivore, which I was already doing, but maybe it's the combination, is I did add in that K2D3 several years ago.
Mm.
Which helps move the calcium where it's supposed to go and get it out of the places it's not supposed to be. So I did that, but I educate every single patient, and their family and their doctors. Some doctors take okay to it. Some doctors are a little um, but it's in my scope of practice for nursing says nutrition education. That's what it says. It doesn't say what type of nutrition education.
That's absolutely fantastic. So have any patients ever taken you up on it and like, okay, I'm going to try to do this? And can you give us some examples maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. So my favorite one was about a year and a half ago. It was a diabetic. I got him after he already had a right lower leg amputation. So about 6 inches below the knee amputated. And he already had a CGM that he wore all the time. And the first day I walked in, it was probably 11 o'clock in the morning. And I asked him if he had had breakfast yet. And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay. So I looked, I was changing the dressing and I saw a color that I didn't really like. It was kind of a purpley gray, musky. And I thought, oh boy, this is not good, especially just having the surgery done. You wouldn't expect to see that. And I said, hey, what's your blood sugar real quick? And so he took his little phone, and put it up there and he was like 400 and something. And I was like, that's fasted? He goes, oh, that's pretty good. And I was like, oh, no, no, no. And I know the surgeon who did his surgery, and he's very particular. He makes me look like a slob, and I'm pretty particular. But I told him, I said, boy, if you have to go back down there and he has to open that back up and do any work, he's going to see that you're not doing your part. He'll amputate above the knee and it'll be done. Cause this guy was a truck driver. So he drives like grain trucks. So he has to push in, have a clutch and stuff. And you can have a CDL if you have a below the knee amputation because you have to have that knee joint, to be able to maneuver the pedal. And so I was like, what do you want to do? Well, he says, well, I'm a truck driver. This is how I've eaten. And I'm like, okay. So we did the dressing changes for a few days. Each day it got worse, felt like a sponge. And I was like, that's not good tissue. And so I had to send him back to that physician's office. And so him and his wife, who she's a retired nurse, called me from the doctor's office while the doctor was in there. And she was like, they want to take it above the knee. And I said, is he willing to try to change anything? Because I will work with him, even after hours, I will work with him. But you guys have to do this through this healing process at least. Get somebody to at least do it that long and then they see how good they feel and they usually take it. And she said, yep. And I begged the doctor. I was like, give me 2 weeks, 3 weeks, see if we can get him under control. So they did his hemoglobin A1C and it was 10.9, which they were like, that's pretty good for him. He had been 13 that day. So I admitted him back in the next day, started just educating. And he did ketovore is what he is. He's not 100% carnivore, but he's pretty close. And he doesn't the occasional vegetable, but it's not like every meal. It's, a couple times a week. But within the first 3 months, first of all, his stump completely healed and he was able to be fitted for a prosthetic, which means he could drive once I was out of there. His hemoglobin A1C went down to 6.7, which, as we know, is still not it's not where we all want it to be, but it's much better than 10.9. And then I just kept working with him on adding good fats, getting rid of the processed foods, things like that. And how I had worked with another truck driver when I worked in the cardiac cath lab who lost over 200 pounds, completely reversed all of his diseases, never had to have another stent put in. And so I just kind of got them in contact with each other, which kind of helped him kind of have another guy, bounce stuff off. And so at 6 months, I was able to completely discharge him. His hemoglobin A1C, I think, was 5.4 or 5.6 that last visit. And just a few weeks ago, his wife texted me that his hemoglobin A1C is 5.1. And he is no longer on any insulin, no diabetic medications. And he got to fire his endocrinologist because no reason to see the diabetic doctor when you're not diabetic. So that's probably my favorite.
That
Laura,
is a fantastic
sorry.
story. No, go ahead, Adrian.
You are so interesting. And not only do we think you're interesting, so does our audience. We have a ton of questions for you. So the first one is someone was wondering they'd like more information on the K2D vitamin D supplement. Like I'm guessing they're asking like what brand or how much or like where do they
Yeah.
start?
Yeah. Now, I do get mine off of Amazon, and it's from the Deal company. It's DEAL. It's a white bottle with green writing, and it is 5,000 of the D3, and it's 100 micrograms of the K2. And so you can go on there and find it. It's really easy. It's really inexpensive. You take it one time a day. You just want to make sure that you take it with a fat, whether that be, even if you're fasting, and just take one little slab of butter, because I'm not going to skip a day. Even when I fast, I might do a little butter and then just take that. An egg yolk, fatty meat. You just want to take it with the fat. A, E, D, and K are fat soluble vitamins, so they work better when they're taken with the fat.
You just mentioned that you fast. Is that part of maintaining or is that for health benefits or when do you fast?
I just listen to my body when it tells me to fast. So if I start to feel like I'm getting a head cold or sinusy, because 'tis the season around here to be allergic to everything that is in my environment. If I start to feel kind of nasally, a little down, food's done. It's just done. I put it away. I put stuff, if I have anything thawed out, it goes right back in the freezer. And I fast until I feel like I've cleared everything. And you will feel it. You will definitely be like, I passed that. That's perfect. So, and generally I fast 16 to 24 hours a day. Sometimes I do OMAD, sometimes I do 2MAD. It basically is really just I listen to my body. Like if I work out really strenuously and like 20 minutes later, I'm like, yeah, I need to eat something. Then I'll make like a burger patty and an egg yolk or something. Um, Sometimes when I do my fasting, um, then I don't. Hang on one second. Let me grab this. You need another one?
Yes.
Okay.
I love that chair or that blanket.
You do?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. That's the other stuff I do when I'm bored and I'm sitting on the couch is I crochet.
Oh, nice.
It's
So,
beautiful.
well,
Of
thank you.
course you crochet. I bet you roof too, don't you?
I
She
have,
hunts.
yes,
She
we-
hunts and she dresses her own meat. I know that.
Yeah. Yes, we roofed this house. We actually took all the shingles off. We went down. We actually put all new wood down. Took it all the way down to, yeah. And so yes,
Wow.
but I was only like 48 when we did that. So I'm not sure I would want to do that at 53, but I suppose if I had to, I
I was
would.
going to say, but I bet you could though.
I could. I could. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
fantastic.
I don't
Yeah.
mean to skip around, but can I ask a question? Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think of this? Okay, so sometimes I have absolutely no odor. I can work out and
Mhm.
sweat and there's no odor. But then when you don't want any odor, that's when it seems to come. And the theory I heard this weekend was that it's a pheromone and that when you're around strangers, we give off a scent to kind of keep them away. It's like a protection thing, a natural protection thing.
Mhm.
What do you think of this?
Yeah, I think that is correct. I think you'll also, if you're attracted to somebody, give off certain pheromones too that they also will, if they're attracted to you, will also get that. I also think that what we're eating will make a difference. So I know that like because I really don't need much, but um, if I usually cook ribeye fat, and that's the majority of the fat that I take in on top of, eating the fatty meat. If I do like the other cuts of meat that the store takes the fat off of and saves up for me, and it's not ribeye fat, I'll notice it'll be different. If it's like down by the belly and stuff, and I'm like, oh, so that I have a little bit, but I don't really have hardly any. I mean, at all.
Yeah.
Okay, well, another question we have here is Laura, I heard you talk about melting tallow. You said you strain it. What do you use to strain it? Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Sure. So when I cook the beef fat and it's ribeye fat, I strain it through just a metal mesh strainer like you would do like if you were I don't know. I used to can tomatoes, which I guess I still do for my husband, but and the tomato sauce. But just a mesh strainer is what I actually use, just real fine mesh. And I just put it over like a 4 cup Pyrex type of a spouted, holder. And I strain it in there and then depending on if I have time, right then I will go ahead and boil that down again very slow and low and let all the impurities come up out of it. Once you do that, then I take jars that I have sitting in hot water and I pour the tallow into those jars and put the rings and lids. I turn them upside down for a few minutes, let that get really warm, turn it back over, and they seal.
Awesome. We have another one here. Ah. Uh, what is the waist measurement I need to aspire to in order to be considered healthy?
I think she might be
Half of
talking
your
about the
height.
waist to height ratio, I'm thinking.
Yes, because you want it to be half of what your height is or below. So, depending on how tall you are, take half of that, and that's what you want to be below that, basically. So, and really, most of the time for women, I don't know. I mean, I work with a lady whose markers are perfect, everything looks great, and I think she's a 34 waist for being a female, but she's also like 6 foot tall, and
Mm,
she's got broad shoulders. I mean, so I'm not
mhm.
sure there's any one set point. I don't think we're cookie cutter people on a lot of that stuff. So, I mean, I weigh 160 pounds and most people are like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you don't look like it, and I'm like, that's where I'm supposed to be. That's where my body feels the best. That's where I mean, I've been way below that before, but I look like Skeletor and sickly and I felt like crap. So I was like, but I got into the doctor's BMI. I was like a 22 or something. And I think I'm a 25.1 or something. And I was like, I don't care because they don't take muscle mass into account when they do a BMI or your bone density
That's
when they
right.
do a BMI. It's just your weight to height. And I'm like, what about my biceps? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, yeah, those are good biceps. And I said, yeah, those weigh more than the fat, but they
Mhm.
don't take that into consideration. So I'm not a big fan of following a lot of
That's
that.
so interesting because this weekend we had some DEXA scans done, and some people who are really, really tiny came back at 40% fat, and they're
Yeah.
tiny and
Yeah.
like
But
this big.
Yeah, I
yeah.
was
But maybe the DEXA
35%
is not that
fat.
accurate. I don't know.
Mine came back at 35% fat and everybody was all like, "Really? You're you don't look like it."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, well, but that's what it said." But yeah.
Yeah. And I'm
You are
not
not the only
sure.
one I heard that from, where we go,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What?
everyone was
Yeah.
like, "Really?"
Yeah.
I was like, "That's what it said."
Yeah. And I don't know. I never have really. I haven't had that. I've had the bone density scanning and stuff like that that I've had done for several years. I used to have that every 6 months because I had osteoporosis pretty bad when I was starting
Oh.
at 28. Um, and but I really haven't done those. I have the scale that supposedly can tell you, and I don't know. I I'm not sure how that's. I don't know how it knows.
Do you know anything about like optimal bone density? Because I could tell you on my DEXA scan that my bone density was 1.4, which I know is like healthy. It's not osteopenia
Yep.
or anything, but is there like an
Right.
optimal number that I should be going for? Like, is that
You
it or
just
should it be higher?
No, and that's perfectly good. You just want to be in the positive range. So it's kind of
Okay.
like golf, maybe like those negatives. I don't know. I'm not a golfer, but anyway, mine was a negative T something like 2 or 3.
Okay.
Um, and then after doing the K2D3 for 6 months, it went up to like it was a -1, and then at a year, it was like just at a flat. And then at a year and a half, I was almost 2, and they're like, "You don't need to come back for bone density scans." And they're like, "What are you doing? Are you doing Boniva?" And I said, "No, I'm doing K2D3. I've been doing it for a year and a half."
Mm,
Crickets in the room. It was like I had
mm.
leprosy. They about ran out of there,
That's how I
and I
felt when
wasn't
I went in
invited
and
back.
told them I
Yeah.
was having a home birth. They
Mhm.
actually told me I was crazy to my face.
That's nice.
That was
Wow.
fun.
And that's too bad. Yeah. That's sad.
Any tips on how to transition to the natural care? Can I just go ahead and just show your website right now?
Yeah, go ahead. This is a great time to show it since people are asking about that.
It's pretty easy. Just go to Laura's website and let's see here. I'll look up the products here. And as you can see, these are more affordable than what you would even buy at Walmart.
Yep. For stuff that's going to be bad for you. At Walmart, it's stuff that's going to be bad for you. It's going to have all the weird stuff in there, chemicals and
What
things that you don't want.
what's the secret to your shampoo bar? I bought some shampoo bars that were what's the Clarin Fits? I don't know. It was insanely expensive. It was like $45 for this bar and my hair just like stuck together. It was so awful.
Yeah. So I think mine is because I read up on it years ago that you wanted to whip your tallow first and
Mm.
then put it in and then mix the other ingredients. So that kind of disperses that oil part of it. Um, so yeah, because it doesn't make my hair oily. And I have the kind that can be oily pretty easy if I'm not careful. And I'm not a big fan of washing my hair. I don't wash my hair every day anyway, because you have natural oils and bacteria on your scalp that you need to have there. So, and as for transitioning, the way I did it, I went, no offense, and I don't mean to sound smart ass, but this is just me. As I walked into my room, and even the ones that were like native and all that that had been clean, as I started reading them, I'm like, oh, they've been bought out by Procter and Gamble and Johnson, and here's all these toxic ingredients now. And I literally probably threw $150 worth of deodorant in the trash can and then made my own and just started using it.
But
So
but
that's the
buying it from you
easiest way to
is obviously
transition.
gonna be cheaper for us than making our own because then you gotta buy all the
Oh,
supplies and all that. So it'd be
yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
'cause sometimes when I take up hobbies, it gets crazy expensive. I'd heard you say too that when we light these candles, it will actually sanitize your air?
Yes. Yep. 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 The tallow and beeswax, it's an organic beeswax from my area here, and that is shown to pull contaminants from the air. Yep.
Wow.
That's fascinating. I have to give that a try.
Yeah.
What's the
Yeah.
oregano oil for?
The oregano oil is something you use to help boost your immune system. So, like, if I'm starting to get, like, you get swollen glands, like you've been around somebody that had a cold and you maybe aren't getting the cold, but it's getting stuck in your little glands there because that's your lymphatic system cleaning out like it's supposed to, but sometimes they get blocked up. I will rub that on there. You can take it by mouth too, but I will rub it on there. Or if my sinuses are starting to get a little mad at me, I'll rub that in. put that around in there, do that. But you can also take it orally because it is immune boosting as well. It just kind of helps kick you into fighting.
I've heard some people use your demineralizing tooth powder and they'll never go back to toothpaste. Like this is
It's
definitely going to be
awesome.
added to my shopping cart. And I almost feel like I shouldn't have shown your website before putting my order in because I don't want you to run out.
She's gonna sell out now, Adrian. Way to go! Now I'm not gonna be able to. I really want to order that cinnamon tooth powder because I have the peppermint and it's great. But
It's
I'm like, oh, she has cinnamon now. And while we're on the
yes.
topic of tooth powder, this is just a suggestion from Gail. She says she would like some spearmint tooth powder. Not sure if that's a
I
thing,
could,
but
yep. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I actually have the essential oil. I grow my own spearmint and peppermint.
okay.
Yeah, so I have that. In fact, I pulled some to and set them out to dry. I'll let them dry and then I put them in a carrier oil for 2 weeks in sunlight and pull that out and then use that. So, yep, I'll be able to do that. It probably won't be this week, but I will be putting that up. I got a lot of lavender that a family member gave me a ton of dried lavender. So I've done some deodorant, some tallow soap, no, tallow lotion. But I think I'll probably do some shampoo bars of lavender. I don't know. I have so many little bars sitting around curing because these look turtle green, and this is manuka and lavender is the ones that I got here.
Nice.
So, and they're just curing because it takes 4 to 6 weeks to cure. So I try to stay ahead of that because I have ran out before and then I'm like, crap, it's going to be, and then I'm out too for myself. And I'm like, dang it. I didn't set one back for myself.
Oops.
I'm bad about that.
Okay, well, David has a question. Back to you. We're just jumping all over the place. I hope you guys are following along as the little, we're just going every which way. But David would like some of your nursing expertise regarding if you can explain a little about the dawn effect regarding glucose
Yep.
and why also the bump in triglycerides.
Yeah. So the dawn phenomenon is what that is called, and everybody has it. It's not just diabetics. So just prior to waking up, it is a bump that the cortisol and the glucose kind of kick in, and that's to wake you up from your sleep. So it's a perfectly normal thing to happen. And even if you're not eating carbohydrates, your liver will produce some glucose through gluconeogenesis. And that is because your red blood cells are the only cell in the body that has to have glucose. Every other cell, every other body part can use ketones from fat that's made from the liver or also what we take in. A bump in the triglycerides, and even your total cholesterol can change in a 6-hour window. And the way I know that it can change that drastic is I did blood work at the health department that I work at, and I did it fasted. I had ran and done kickboxing that morning. I think I'd fasted for at least 15 hours and got those results. I didn't even look at them. I put them in the envelope because I was going to the doctor the next day to have those. They did mine at 6 o'clock the next morning. Then I went and saw her at 8 o'clock, and they were astronomically different, and the ranges are the same. So between the two places, the ranges are exactly the same, and night and day difference. And I had fasted for maybe 10 hours with the second day, but I did not work out. And so when you'll see your LDL sometimes come up, can see your triglycerides come up. Um, Triglycerides and LDL will sometimes come up also when you're trying to heal something because they're kind of the carriers, of getting your immune system components to the areas they need to go. It's just like with cardiac. Everybody's like, oh, I'm afraid my, coronary arteries are going to fill up with cholesterol. And I'm like, which cholesterol at body temperature is liquid. How about the calcium? And I'm like, yes, there's a little bit of cholesterol that goes to any injury site in the body, whether it's inside the vessel, doesn't matter, inside your liver, wherever. But it's like a little band-aid. It's just a smear of it. And then as that damage keeps happening, that's when the cells turn into kind of like osteocytes, kind of like bone sites that's when it starts bringing in the calcium, the phosphorus, the magnesium, and making what is actually plaque. No different than the plaque that's on your teeth when you go to the dentist. He's not peeling cholesterol off your teeth. When they say plaque here, it's the same plaque that's on your teeth. It's all of those minerals. So it's completely normal. So even like I think my hemoglobin A1C I had done a few weeks ago, I think I was 3.4, and my triglycerides were like 70, which is the highest they've been for a while. Sometimes they're 30, sometimes they're 40. 70 was the highest. I'm okay with that. They're still way under 1,000, which is where I started at in 91.
Oh,
And
whoa.
yeah,
Is that one of the
yeah,
reasons you went keto, because you were having like such high triglycerides and things like that you were talking about earlier?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. My doctor was, like I said, 87 is when Lipitor came out. I saw him in 90 and 91. So in 90, I went to him and he was like, yeah, you need more of country crock, the egg whites, just the egg beaters or whatever that was called in the container, that was just egg whites and more chicken, less of this deer meat and stuff. And so I did that. And as I did that, all of my numbers got horrible. And
Mm,
really, when they went to 1,000, they said, the lady that spun it, she goes, it's probably a lot higher than that because we spun it twice and it went to that. And that's as high as our
mm,
meter goes. And and just knowing that really high triglycerides is actually a precursor to diabetes. And I love to poke other people. I do not enjoy poking myself. And I was like, I am not poking myself. And I was like, what do I have to do to change this? And my doctor handed me a script for Lipitor. I mean, he just wrote it like nothing and handed it to me like that. And I
mm.
remember asking him, how long do I have to take this? Because, I was young, I was 20, and I was thinking like an antibiotic. And he says, forever. And I was like, I'm not living out of a medicine bottle at 20. So that's really what kind of pushed me to go just start doing my own research, looking stuff up and saying, we got to figure this out. And it's not the way they're telling us. Because even at 20, I could look and see, and I wasn't a nurse yet, people are getting sicker and fatter and more unhealthy. Eating the way they're telling us is supposed to be the healthy way. I was like, this doesn't make sense. So
Mhm.
that's really kind of what pushed me to do it.
So
And then
while we're
society blames people like, oh, it's getting worse because you're doing it wrong. You're bad. There's something wrong with you, you. And it's like, no, it's the advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While we're sort of on the topic of cholesterol, do you have an opinion on lean mass hyperresponders? Just curious, because I'm one.
I,
Carrie's here; she's one. I know
yeah.
also David in the chat is one.
Yes.
Just curious what your thoughts are, if you have any.
I think it's absolutely amazing. I think you guys are like superhumans. I
Yes.
do. I do. I just think it's absolutely amazing. And
Okay.
even back when, my doctor was so worried that my cholesterol was 368, but my triglycerides were 30. And I think my BMI at that time was like 24.9 or something. I mean, I was within their little window. And, and she was like, oh, and I was like, I don't care. Like, I know what cholesterol does. My body is using it perfectly. I'm in the best health of my life. You just said, like, oh, everything looks great, but but you got to take a statin. So, no, I think you guys are amazing. I think it's awesome. I
Okay.
wish they'd get a whole bunch of you guys and just study you guys. Not
Yeah.
not post mortem, but just study you guys and kind of and see. But I think it's really awesome. I think it's so neat. I've read up on that, and I'm like, I had read the study to begin with, when it first, in fact, before it was even completely out. I was watching Dr. Barry when he talked to the two fellows that were doing that. And I
Hmm.
was like, oh, yes, I am pulling that up. And I just went through it and I
Oh,
printed it
nice.
out. And I was like, that is absolutely interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So,
I know. And now that I found out that I am one, I'm like really lasered in. I know there's going to be some more data coming out this week.
yeah.
And at Hack Your Health, we got a little I don't know if it's insider information, but it is looking good. It's looking good. That data is probably going to be good. That's coming out from
Yeah,
Dave Feldman's lean mass hyperresponder study measuring, CAC scores and in us
sure.
lean mass hyperresponders and what's going to happen with those, over time. So I'm really looking forward to that next, when that
Yeah.
data comes out because yeah, I want to go get a CAC score for myself just out of curiosity, and
Yeah.
see.
And they're really not super. I mean, in my area, it was $75. It really was not.
Yeah.
Hi, homesick. Hi,
There's
Russ.
Russ. I got to meet Rush in real life, Laura. It was super
Did
cool.
you? I
Yeah.
know.
I know. It was
He's my
awesome.
brother from another mother. Every
I
time we're
love
on the
Russ.
phone, like we'll call back and forth and it's like, oh, it'll be 10 minutes. And I look up and I'm like, it's been 2.5
It's been
hours.
yes. Yep. Anyway, thanks
Yeah,
for the
he's a
the super
blast.
chat, Russ. You're awesome. And
There were
Mike,
other really cool comments in the oops, sorry.
no, I was
Um,
trying to click on that one too. Mike said, if we have the zombie apocalypse, I want Laura on my team. Laura
Yes,
knows
you
what's
do.
up.
I
and
have
another person
bows.
agreed.
Yeah, I have I have everything covered.
I know you do. Awesome.
Yeah.
So Deb Olson wanted you to clarify. You said something about vitamin D and calcium. I know you were talking about vitamin D
Yeah.
and K2. Did you mention something about
Yeah.
calcium?
Well, it's just how it works with the calcium. So most of the time, osteoporosis, most of the time is that you're breaking down the bone. You have osteoclasts and osteoblasts. One breaks down, one rebuilds. And what happens with osteoporosis is you don't have enough of the minerals getting together to help rebuild the bone. You're breaking it down like you normally do. Well, then you have that extra calcium that you broke down now in your bloodstream. Plus, most of us have been told to take this calcium tablet, which is useless. You might as well, I won't say what they really should do with them, but I wouldn't put them in my ex husband's body. Um, but it's just that the K2D3 moves that calcium. It kind of mobilizes it, puts it out into what they call the bone matrix, which allows the other minerals that are attracted to calcium. Anybody that's a construction worker, worked with concrete, they know that you put in the calcium and everything's attracted to it and it helps, harden. Same with your teeth. So that's why, like the bentonite clay that I use in my mineral powder is so good is because it has all of those minerals and it helps pull that in. And your enamel, I'm not kidding you. I literally am not a goat, but I can chew through a tin can easy. Not even a problem. And I used to
Wow.
have the most sensitive teeth and I
Hmm.
do not. I mean, my dentist is always like the last time I went to the dentist, the lady was trying to see if there was anything to clean. She has that little pokey thing and she's poking. She goes, oh, you got a cavity. And I said, no, I don't. And she goes, oh, no, you do. And I said, no, I don't. And I said, did we have a watch on that tooth like 6 months ago, a year ago? Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I said, no, we didn't. And so she goes and looks at my little thing. No, we didn't. I said, there's no cavity there. And she goes, well, there is. I'll have him look at it. And I said, well, you just do that, Skippy. And so he come in and she says, oh, this, and she named the tooth. I don't know, whatever she called it. She's like, I think there's definite cavity there. So he starts digging around and he's younger. I mean, he's way younger than both of us by far because she's probably in her 60s and I'm 53. And he turned and he goes, you can't have a cavity if there's no decay. She doesn't have any decay on that tooth, on any of her teeth. And she goes, well, I felt like there was. And he goes, okay, well, there's not. So we're good today. And he says, would you see you in a year? So I was like, come on.
That's
I don't know what she
awesome.
thought she was digging into, but no, I don't
Can you
know.
just do you have any kind of idea how because I do have your tooth powder and I use it and like it, but it's like I still have some like toothpaste. So I've been kind of switching back and forth. If I switch over right to the tooth powder and only use that,
Yeah,
how long will it take before my teeth start to sort of remineralize?
they'll
Do you have
remineralize within months. You'll start getting
wow.
that buildup. It's very
Okay.
fast, especially if your teeth have the roots in them. Now, if they're had a root canal,
No, I haven't.
they're a dead tooth. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but
every
I
time
mean,
I go to
people
my
have,
dentist, he's like, "Why are you here? There's nothing for us to do."
I know it's a
You
good
know?
feeling though,
Yeah, I love
but
it.
yeah, if you've had a root canal, it's a dead tooth. If you don't, and that's what I tell people, they're like, oh, I have a small cavity. It's not hurting me, but you can see it. And I'm like, you can fix that. And they're like, yeah, he's gonna. And I said, no, you can fix that yourself. You don't have to have that filled. It's not into the root. It's not to that point. You actually can remineralize your own. I said, it's a living bone. It's just like here. You don't have the same humerus in a year from now. It's completely a brand new bone. I said, our teeth are the same thing. You do know they're made from the same material. And she was like, well, yeah, I kind of thought this. Yeah. And I was like, just look it up. Like, you don't even have to buy it from me. Go buy the ingredients yourself and do it. Like, make your own if you want. But I'm like, you can remineralize your own. So yeah, it doesn't take any time, especially eating as good as you do. Being on a clean, I think you would see it very fast.
Can kids use that tooth stuff? Like, can
Oh,
you
yes.
swallow it?
You can, it's not gonna hurt you. I mean, I've given it away to family forever. And I mean, I have grandkids that are 11, 2 7-year-olds and a 6-year-old. And I'll guarantee you they're not the cleanest eaters. They're not eat like me, but they do eat better than the average kids. They don't get as much junk, but I don't think I mean, they don't have any cavities yet.
Right.
So, and
You
that's
were
pretty good
talking
for 11.
too
Mhm.
about calcium, and I recently had an incredibly upset stomach because I ate allulose. We were talking about this before the show, and it ripped my guts to pieces. And I was so desperate because I had to fly home, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do on the airplane. I'm going to die here. So I took some Pepto Bismol. Can you
Oh,
tell
yeah.
us why that doesn't work? It didn't work, and why it's not good. And then number three, what did end up helping was eating a carnivore bar.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
animal fat
So
is medicinal to our
it,
digestive system, right?
it is. So the first thing was doing any sugar alcohol type sweetener is going to kill off the bacteria. So I use a nasal spray during really bad sinus season, and it's just called I think Zyol, and it's
Xylitol,
just
I have it too.
xylitol. Yes, yes. So it's just sugar alcohol. So the reason it works is because when you spray that into your sinuses, the bacteria see that as a sugar and they run to it for energy, but they can't break down the sugar alcohol and they die. So then all that dies off. Well, just think about if you're ingesting that and then it gets into your stomach and here's all your stomach bacteria that's going, we need this to eat. And then we're like, oh shit, we're not getting anything. And they die off. And then you have this massive die off. So taking anything like Pepto or Mylanta, any of that is not going to help you at all. Because for one, all the different chemicals that are in it, it's got, I know a lot of people use it in emergency, but it's not, yeah, it's really bad. And so you have to do things to help get that bacteria built back up. So eating, the meat with the fat, even a little apple cider vinegar and water, you could do that. You could, I'm not saying go out and eat a bunch of sauerkraut, but sauerkraut, you could take a few bites of even sauerkraut or kimchi to kind of help kind of recolonize your stomach. You could make yogurt that has the live active cultures, stuff like that. Kefir, you could have some kefir that would kind of recolonize the stomach. That would work the fastest, and kind of get everything re-established. Same things happens when you take a antibiotic. The antibiotics kill all the bacteria, whether it's gram negative or gram positive, depending on what antibiotic. If they give you a broad spectrum, it kills both types. Well, then you wipe them all out. And that's why everybody's like, yeah, I got diarrhea when I started taking antibiotics. I'm like, yes, because you killed all your good bacteria, good
Mhm.
and bad. So then they have to recolonize, and eating meat, especially um, meat that's somewhat undercooked, is even better because it has a higher bacteria count and you will recolonize yourself much faster that way, especially if you still have an appendix. A lot of people have had their appendix ripped out because doctors, when they're in taking a gallbladder out, which I think they should be there are times that it's necessary, but most of the time it's not a necessary surgery. But I've had a surgeon say, we're just going to take the appendix. It's an extra organ. And I'm like, wait a minute, wait a minute. You're telling me that he put extra organs in us that don't mean anything, that you don't really need that. And
Mm.
he goes, well, nobody eats food that's questionable. And I said, yeah, we do. Some of us do. Like if I get farm fresh eggs, I don't wash them off. Like if I'm going to separate it and eat the yolk, that bloom is on the outside of that. It's probably in the jar. I don't know, but I'm still here. So I got good bacteria in my gut.
Mm-hmm.
So what
Wow.
is the negative of the Pepto? Because I've heard that does it actually kick calcium out of your body, or it makes it so you can't absorb nutrients?
It
I
actually
always
blocks
forget.
you from being able, yeah, it blocks you from being able to absorb nutrients, which is kind of the same thing that Ozempic does and Wegovy and Monjaro and a lot of those, or different types of the gastric procedures where they take off that portion of the stomach and you become like pernicious anemic. Same thing, but at least those of you guys who have had that type of surgery done, it is harder to get doing the carnivore diet, but you guys like you and G and some other people are able to do it and managing it pretty well. I think it's a slower process, but I do think that you heal and eventually we'll get back to some of that function. I do. So, because I think she's just over a year and she's doing a lot better than she did. So I think our body is naturally made to heal itself if we stop putting things in it to either mimic something, block something, just like high blood pressure medicine. There are some people that absolutely still have to have high blood pressure medicine. I'm working with somebody who's carnivore and he was like, I just went off of it. And I was like, holy crap. Like, you can't just go off of it because you don't know what's causing your blood pressure. That's my other thing is I always ask people, well, you're taking this medication for high blood pressure. What's the cause of your high blood pressure? Is it kidneys? Is it you have, calcium in your arteries? Is it a lung issue that's causing backup of blood into your heart? What's causing it? And they're like, I don't know. My doctor said take these pills. And I'm like, great.
Mm.
But yeah, so
Well, Eric came in a little late, but Gail said, "Don't worry, Eric. There's been no picanha mention yet. We can't have an episode about of Lioness Lifestyle Live without mentioning my absolute favorite, picanha." Laura, have you
yes.
tried picanha? And will you tell us a
Oh yeah.
little bit about how you normally eat on the carnivore diet?
Yeah. So I have had picanha several times. I had never even heard of it. And I was over getting meat from my meat people. And they had this giant, beautiful slab of beef sitting there. And I said, what is that? And he goes, oh, it's picanha. And I said, what is picanha? I said, I have like, because I've been eating this way for so long, I've got people who have like have a cow and they made stickers and it has like where all the different cuts are and the names of everything. And same with my deer. And I was like, there is no picanha on my thing. So I don't know where that came from. So he explained where it came, off of the cow. So I got it. And what I did with mine is I did it the same way I do my brisket. I put
Okay.
some ribeye fat in on top of it, some of my Redmond's real salt. I use some of the smoked salts in there, some water, and I just covered it in a glass dish and put it in the oven at like 250 all overnight. So like 10 hours. And
Okay.
it was amazing.
Mm,
Amazing.
sounds
So, but I
amazing.
I just I just I have the easiest eating that there is. I literally eat meat and it's usually like I have lamb burger that I made the other day. I had some lamb shoulder roast and which I liked. I ate one of them. I had to have Russ from Homesick Buckeye tell me, how do I cook that? Because I'd never made lamb before. So I was like picking his brain, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I did it, and he was right. It was really good. But then I had another one, and I was like, boy, I really want some burger today. So then I just was like, I'll just thaw it out. And I cut off some of that harder fat that's sometimes in that shoulder and cut it up, put it through my grinder and with some ribeye fat and made my own burger with it. And so I've been having that, and that's really good
Mm.
too. So I just
Yeah.
eat meat, and once in a while I'll throw the occasional egg yolk. Um, but most all the time it's just pretty much meat, salt, and water for me, just because I have so many allergies, intolerances. It's just the way I was born, and those haven't went away. Every so often I'll try something. Um, this last weekend I was like, "Ooh, I make my own salsa, which I haven't eaten for a long time, but this weekend I was like, I really have a hankering for that." So I did a spoon of it on top of my steak, and I was like, that was pretty good. And then I was like, but I probably won't do that again for years, because now I'm done. It was kind of like my binge of, oh yeah,
Mm,
that tasted pretty good, and now I'm good for a while, and I don't have that craving to have it, so I'm like, eh. But yeah,
yeah.
just primarily, I'm pretty boring when it comes to eating. It's just easy.
That's awesome.
Uh,
Oh, perfect. That's so funny because I was just about to pop that one up there, Adrian. I think this is our pretty much our last question for you, Laura, before we spin our meaty wheel.
Yeah.
uh,
Heard you mention about the video where the guy talked about D3. And I think you're talking about Doug, Doug and Stacy. What is their names? Oh, darn it. They're from Missouri. Anyway, they're homesteaders. It's called Doug and Stacy Off Grid, I think. There's nothing that I have found when I looked through all of everything I had researched about the D3 that I have, that I get from Deal. None. I couldn't even find it out on any of the sites. Um, but I also did email the person who put that video out and showed his phone of this guy talking. And I was like, can you give me his information so I can be like, hey, where did you get this information? I'm fine if somebody has that information and it truly is that. I want to know that, but I'm a puzzle person. You've got to show me all the pieces. You can't just say it out on your little phone, and I'm not going to be like, yep, they said it. No, I want to know. You show me that. So even if it came from wool, I wouldn't be worried about it, because that's still a ruminant animal. So I wouldn't care if it did. And I don't know what bad benefit it would have if it did come from that. So, but there was nothing I could find on that. And I did look.
Interesting. All right. I hope everyone is ready for our meaty wheel. I'm going to go ahead and pop that right up here. All right. Hopefully everyone can see that. It's our Lioness Lifestyle Live meaty question wheel. We're going to spin a question for Laura and see if she'll answer it for us. We hunted down this meaty question for you, Laura. Can you describe a typical day's worth of meals on your carnivore diet? I think you kind of just did that, but how many times in a day do you eat? Like, are you OMAD, 2MAD, just whenever you get hungry? How does
Just
that work?
depends. Yeah. At being 5 years now, I just listen to my body's cues. And I will say this, doing a lot of extended fasting, the first 3, 4 years, I think helped that, because once you quiet down all that outside noise of fixing food, figuring it out, and it's hard with people that have kids because you're still having to fix their food. But I have done that where, I mean, I even did a Thanksgiving dinner for other people, and I was fasted for several days. So I did do it, but it was a little harder to do. But I think once you really learn what your hunger cues are, it's easier to listen to those, to know that.
Mhm.
So I really every day, I have no idea. I always have meat thawed out in the fridge, so it's ready to go. A pound or two at any time. So there's always something there. Um, so some days I may get up, and like I said, if I do a real crazy workout, I may be like, yeah, I think I need a little something. I may make a hamburger and have salt and some ribeye fat. I use a ton of ribeye fat. I mean, I can't even tell you how much ribeye fat I go through. It's probably embarrassing. It's a lot. But I do that with every one of, like, and there's even been days where I did 3 meals. Now they weren't huge meals, but it was like I ate 3 different times, because I just listened to my body. It was like I needed that. It was telling me I needed it, and I went ahead and did it. Next day, I was like, man, is that going to throw me off? And I'm going to want 3 meals all the time, just the way I was thinking. Nope. Next day I did like OMAD and I was like, okay. So I just listened to my body.
That's awesome. Thank you for letting us know. Adrian, do you want to shout out? I know we showed her website, but do you want to shout out her channel because it's fantastic?
Yeah, so you can find Laura over on YouTube at Healthy Carnivore. She's got great videos on how to and explain different things in her life. And then on her live, she does a live every Monday with the felines, as well as collaborating with other people in here. So it's a great channel. I mean, like so many people said, I mean, we wish we had Laura next door. The next closest thing we have is her YouTube channel to learn to just be more self-sufficient and more healthy. So thank you, Laura, so much for coming on today.
Welcome.
Are we ready for our roar, or did I miss a step?
No, we're ready. Gail's already, she's preparing her roar. So if everyone in the chat would get their roars ready, get ready to put them in the chat for when Adrian counts us down, and we'll roar our way on out of here.
Well, thank you again, Laura, for being our guest today. All right, we're going to roar in 3, 2, 1. Roar.
Roar.
Yes, I love
I have
that.
the
That was
worst
great,
roar. I got
Laura.
to work on that
Work
roar.
on your roar. All right, the
It was
roars are coming
fine.
in hot, Adrian. Pop them on up there. I'm gonna
Yes,
let you
they
do it
are.
so we don't fight over the who's gonna pop it up there. Thank you, Linda. That's a great one. Thanks,
Oh,
Fee.
here we go, Eric.
Roar Picanha roar. That's right, Eric. You always make my night with that one.
He likes his picanha.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for
Perfect.
watching Lioness Lifestyle Live and hanging out with us this evening. We will see you next Tuesday where we'll have another awesome guest to chat with. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Yeah.